Hello. Welcome to our weekly pause. My name is Angie Tucker. I'm a board member and secretary of Revelation Gardens, and I'm here with Dawn Harris, our founder and president. Revelation Gardens is a Benton County nonprofit working to reduce the number of pets in need in our community. We've started a weekly podcast on Sundays at 2, and this is our first live, so we hope it goes well, to talk about all things related to pets. Today's topic is the importance and rewards of fostering. Before we jump in, I'd like to remind you of our founding scripture, Revelation 21:4. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. So, before we start with questions and things, I kind of wanted to talk to Dawn and to you guys and tell you a little bit of a history of my fostering experience. Um, Dawn and I have been talking about there's been so many people, especially with kittens this time of year, needing a place for the kittens to go, and there's just nowhere for them to go. We just don't have enough room. So one of her ideas is a fostering program. Years ago, I began fostering pugs, especially because I loved pugs, and so. Uh, One of the reasons I thought it would be fun is you get a new dog every so often, and that's kind of exciting is getting a new animal and getting to know their personality and stuff. So I asked my husband if we could foster, and we began to foster for Memphis Pug Rescue. And our first pug was an old pug, Harley, and he's a little old fat pug, and we just had him, I guess, a month or two before he found a home. Um, so one of the things Don wanted to know is, did they vet me? You know, they didn't just go. I didn't just say, "Hey, I want to foster," and they go, "Sure, here, take this dog." Um, they had to find out. They wanted to make sure that I would be good with the animals, that I would take care of the animals, and so they talked to my vet, and my vet for years has been Dr. Pascal, and I had to put other people as references. Now, as I've gotten older, I have a lot more references of pet people that I can share, and I can't remember who all I put or how the process went, but they were pretty desperate for fosters. Um, we're always desperate for fosters.
Yes, we are.
The animal rescue venue or whatever you want to call it, we're always desperate for fosters because there's so many animals in need and there's just not enough room everywhere. And so the more fosters there are, the better that is. So they accepted me, and I had Harley first, but I wanted to tell you about our second pug because that was the one that was more of a big deal. And I've had, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50. We've had a lot of
Oh, wow.
fosters through our house. But I remember our first one. Our second one was named Santana. Santana was a pug, and she came to us all bones. You could see every rib. And you know, pugs are fat dogs. And so to see every rib, she was neglected. And the way we got her was someone saw that her in the yard, tied up in the yard. Pugs are not supposed to be outside in the heat; it'll kill them because they can't breathe. And the neighbor went over and said, "I know somebody who wants a pug. Can I have your pug?" And they said, "Yeah, we bought it for our kids, but our kids wouldn't take care of it, and it got pregnant, and all the puppies died.
Oh, goodness.
And yeah, you can have it." So he took it and brought it to the pug rescue. So I had Santana. Um, I came home one day and Santana was doing this, just like this, and I just freaked out because she was, something was wrong. She was just doing this. So I ran her to Dr. Pascal. And so one question people ask is, do I have to pay for the vet care? Usually you don't. They pay for the vet care. I didn't care. When I saw her sick, I didn't. I'm in it for the animals, and I didn't care, and I was going to take care of her regardless. They did pay for it, but I took her emergency because I was so afraid. I didn't know what was going on, and we decided there was something neurological. They ended up wanting me to carry her to Memphis to see their vet because Dr. Pastel couldn't quite figure it out, but he couldn't either. And they just gave her some medicine to reduce swelling in the brain, I think, and we had to keep her until she was better. So I kept her for about 7 or 8 months, and they found a home for her in Massachusetts. And I had to take her, it was right at Christmas, and I had to take her up to Nashville to meet the person who was going to carry her to Massachusetts. And when she left, I had a dream that she walked all the way home from Massachusetts.
Oh.
So that's one of the hardest parts of being a foster is you can get attached to these little sweet things.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't keep her is that was just our second one, and I wanted to do more. And I thought, if I keep everyone I get, I can't be a foster. And that's why I started being a foster is I wanted to help the animals. And if I can foster and they can find another home, I can foster somebody else. So um, we fostered pugs for years from Memphis uh, Pug Rescue. I told Dawn that places come up and then go away, and I guess people get burnt out. Folks, this is a calling because it's hard. It's hard because there's not enough room. You can't save them all. There's so many people that don't know what to do, so they call you and you go, I can't help you because we're full. And it's just really hard on a person. And so I think people burn out after a little while. And so Memphis Pug Rescue quit having pugs, so we found another, Middle Tennessee Pug Rescue, and that one was in Nashville. And we had a few from Nashville. I remember we had two, a boy and a girl pug, and they would fight each other, so I called them Ike and Tina, and they thought that was funny. That wasn't their names. I called them Ike and Tina. And then West Tennessee Animal Rescue opened up in Benton County, and so I started helping foster with them. And that's the one we did the plays with. And those of you who know me who went to see the plays, that was for West Tennessee Animal Rescue. West Tennessee Animal Rescue is no more. Same thing happens, all these rescues that I work with, they just kind of go away. But I'm always looking for a new one, and so I found Dawn, and I'm very happy to be working with Dawn and to help animals. So today we wanted to talk about and ask you guys if you want to foster, that's a possibility.
It's a big possibility. We need fosters so desperately.
So we're going to talk about first why fostering is so important. How does it help the animals? Why is it so important to us right now?
Well, I think the main thing is we have an epidemic right now in our community with homeless animals, animals that are being abandoned, pets that aren't spayed and neutered, and then they just keep reproducing. And so we have all these animals that people are finding, and they want to bring them to the shelter. They want to bring them here, and we're full. We're beyond full, actually. Um, and it's so hard for me to say no. Um, I just tried to say no a couple of days ago, and then she showed me the cats, and I couldn't say
Yeah,
no.
no, I know.
Isn't that awful?
I know.
um, but that situation was a little different. They were in a plastic tub, and the lid was closed. It had been broken a little bit for some air, but they were panting, and there was a lot of condensation. But the point is that it's really difficult for a rescue, somebody that is an advocate for animals, to say no, but we have to. We run out of space, we run out of time, um, and capabilities. I can't keep. It's not sustainable to continually take in animals and not have the resources.
Tell them how many animals you're taking care of right now.
54. So I'm taking care of 54 right now, and that keeps increasing because there's some homeless colonies. That's actually not part of that number, but there's some homeless colonies, and they've been pregnant, and so I couldn't trap them because the kittens were born, and then the, they were still nursing, and so I was waiting, but now the kittens are appearing, and I don't have room. It's really difficult because I can't, if I bring them in, they haven't been vetted, and it's just the main area. I have some rooms, but the rooms are full, and if I bring them into this main area, they haven't been vetted. I don't know if they're going to transfer something to the other cats, if the other cats are going to fight them. There's just so many considerations. Um,
And you have to think about Dawn's not a millionaire who said, "Okay, I'm going to start this business, this rescue." That it's not a nonprofit, and so she has to raise money somehow to take care of these animals, and she doesn't have unlimited funds. Um, but with fostering, she has more capabilities to take care of more, and she doesn't have to spread herself as thin, and we can help more animals. Um, one of the things, so we were talking about right now, it's kitten season,
yeah, there's,
and so that's why she's had so many people coming in wanting to give kittens. And honestly, when she's talked to me about what Revelation Gardens is for, it was more of a sanctuary for animals when a parent died of the animal and they couldn't take care of them, or the animal was unhealthy and needed more help and they couldn't take care of them, and the parent was unhealthy, or things like that, so that we're a sanctuary for animals and we keep them. But we're getting so many kittens, and kittens don't need to be taken care of here, they need to go to a home. And so that's not her primary goal, but it's sort of switching to that in a lot of ways because she's getting so
yeah,
many kittens. Yeah.
just out of necessity.
Mhm.
It's a great point about what we were founded on. We were supposed to be a sanctuary primarily focused on animals whose parents passed away. But we filled up like
Mhm.
almost immediately. And so I had to look at what's happening. Why is this, it's not all just animals whose parents passed away.
Mhm.
And I realized that we need to start equipping pet parents so they're not surrendering their animals and abandoning them. And so that's where the community outreach program started, so that we can
Mhm.
provide them the resources or connect them with people in the community that can help them,
Mhm.
whether it's, if they have anger problems or drug addictions or they need job skills,
Mhm.
there's just
Yeah.
whatever is keeping them from being able to keep their pet.
Mhm.
But then on top of that, now we have pets that are not spayed and neutered, and so there's
Absolutely.
all of these kittens and puppies and things being born. And so part of the foster equation for me is if somebody comes to the door and they found an animal, a litter of kittens that was abandoned, or whatever the situation was, helping them to keep that animal or animals until we can find adopters. And so it's not just having somebody that is a foster, although that too, where we say, okay, we have this foster, and then we match them.
Mhm.
But we have people that actually um, fulfill that role based on the fact that they found some animals, and how
Mhm.
can they just keep them temporarily,
Yeah.
so we equip people to do that more.
Yes.
So that's what I'm really striving to do, is create a network of fosters as well as people that can fill that role based on them finding an animal.
And that's a good point too. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not going to be a foster, I just can't. But then you find some kittens and you go, well, I can take care of these kittens until they can find a home. And so then we can post their pictures and we can be the place they come. And so you can come and tell us, we have these kittens. Will you post them? Will you help us find homes for them? We might can help with food. We might can help with some of those things. And so that way, um, this is if you're listening and later on you find out this might be a trigger and go, yeah, oh, maybe I can do that, maybe I can do that. Yeah.
Kittens in particular are really easy to care for. If you have a fairly good sized bathroom, you just put them in the bathroom and you give them, some things to play with and a scratching post and food and water, and you go in and you hang out with them, and
They're so
it's
fun.
they're amazing. So it's actually relatively easy, and then if a rescue like us steps up to take care of their vaccinations and their food, all you're providing is, your love and a space for them to be safe while we find a home
And
get
get
them
and
adopted.
be get used to people and things like that. And I was telling Dawn that when I adopted my guinea pigs, a lot of people said they adopted guinea pigs to get their kids to learn about taking care of animals. And a lot of people talk about their children learning to take care of things and to be responsible. And so maybe you don't want to have a whole bunch of animals that last for 10, 15 years, but you go, that would be something my children would love. We'd know there'd be an end to it eventually, and then they could learn about taking care of things. And
That's a great point.
um, it gives them something to do other than this on their phones all the time. And
That's a fantastic point, and I think also with that, it's helping to instill how to be of service
mm-hmm,
and to give back, and those are great things for kids to learn.
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's a wonderful point.
Um, that's the other, we were saying that volunteer, even for us, even for ourselves, how can I volunteer, how can I become somebody who helps something that means the most to me? And so for me, that's animals. And so for you, if you're watching this, it's probably animals too. um, there's other places to go for the food drop people, for people for food. What's that called? Second
Food bank,
harvest.
yes, second
Yeah,
harvest.
stuff like that. You can help with people, but we are animal people, and so this is a way we can give back and teach our children how to give back to our community. Um, I wanted to talk about, when I became a foster, I had certain questions that I would ask the rescue. So I'm going to go through some of those and let you know what we would do and let you know what other places might do. Because if there's another place that you see asking for fosters, and it's like me, I loved pugs. I love pugs, and I wanted to foster pugs, and I fostered. I can't even remember. I should have kept count, but at least 50. I'm feeling like, because we fostered for many years, and they were all pugs, and they would come and go through our house. Now, when I got to West Tennessee Animal Rescue, I started fostering different breeds. I had a Chihuahua, and I had like a Schnauzer type dog, and we had different ones. But I love doing pugs. We have more cats coming through. We had one dog come through, and she called and said, "Do you want to foster?" And I was like, I think so. Let me see if they get along with my dog. I was kind of excited, but we found home immediately for that dog, so that worked out good. Um, but so my first question is, how long am I going to have to keep this animal?
So that's something that we don't know for sure. I mean, ideally, a short time when we find an adopter, but it could be you know it could be a few weeks, it could be a few months. That's something that we don't have a precise answer for. Um, I just know that there's a lot of people that are looking for kittens, and when they have a focal point of where they can go to get kittens or have resources, then things seem to go quicker. So,
So with my own fostering, here's some examples. One time I got a pug that was the size of a kitten. This this little, there's a person, and this pug. She told me, "You're gonna want to keep
we're
that
doing a
pug."
live right now, Deb. We're doing a live. It's okay. You're already in. It's okay.
And so, um, 2 weeks. I had that dog 2 weeks. It was gone. But we got a Chihuahua from West Tennessee Animal Rescue named Attila. I remember his name because I had him a long, long time. I had him a year, and I thought, well, we're keeping Attila. And then a man, an older gentleman, that's exactly what he wanted, and he adopted Attila. And so then we were able to get a different dog, but we had Attila for a year. So sometimes it depends on the animal. It depends on what you're able to do too. Um, we've had when I was fostering for West Tennessee Animal Rescue. So one of the questions is, what do we do when it doesn't work? And it is hard when it doesn't work. We had a dog that bit my husband,
Oh no.
and so he said, "I'm not keeping that dog." And so we had to rush around and try to find somebody to take him. We did, but sometimes something happens that serious, and you're kind of like, okay, this isn't going to work. And so we'll work with you because we don't want you to be in danger. We don't want
Oh,
the
absolutely. Yeah,
animal
yeah.
to be in danger, or your pets to be in danger, or your children. And so we'll work that out. But it didn't. It happened once, and I
And
had 50
right
dogs.
now,
you know.
our primary need is for kittens.
Yeah.
We don't have dogs that need fostering at this juncture. So it's going to be kittens and potentially an older, an adult. Not We have seniors also, so it
Mhm.
could be. Our
Mhm.
primary need right now is cats. Our kitty intake tripled last year, so that's our need right now.
You know what would be awesome too? Um, Maybe there's somebody that has in their heart the a desire to help those geriatric pets. And so there might be somebody who says, I don't want to make a commitment for 15 years, but if you have an older cat that needs a home, I'm willing to keep that cat for the last year or two of its life and take care of it because I have a heart for that. And there are people who do.
It's very
Mhm.
rewarding, and I've
Mhm.
definitely enjoyed giving an animal, the best quality of life at the end of its life. It's very rewarding.
It is.
It is.
It is. Um, so the other question I ask as a foster, do I have to pay vet bills and food bills? I didn't mind doing it. And so sometimes, um, not the vet bills as much as the food. I never asked for money for food. I already had dogs. And so I just bought the food. I was okay with that. But Dawn's willing to help with food too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we get people to step up to start being fosters, we will provide all of your supplies. And if you're in a position that you don't need that, that's fantastic. And if you're in a position where you can provide the funding for that for a foster, but you can't actually foster the animal, that's fantastic too.
Mhm.
Um, but to answer Angie's question, yes, we would provide all of we would cover all of the vetting costs and your food costs. So there's no outfit for you. You would just be providing the love and the space for the animal to live in your home.
Mhm. I think that's the only questions. Oh, we also, as a foster, I want to know the history of the animal.
Mhm.
And so I'll give you examples. Sometimes I don't. So I told you about Santana. This man said he bought it for the kids. The kids didn't take care of it, so we tied him up in the back, didn't feed it, and let it just let it die. That's what they did. But then I've gotten some. The one I own right now that I've adopted, he's a geriatric pug. He was just walking the streets. And so I look at him all the time and I think he's so sweet and wonderful and he loves my husband the best. So I'm thinking he must have belonged to a man. And so you sometimes you don't really know the history of them. But it helps to know the history of them because then you kind of know why they're scared or why they're outgoing and we just found out the history of one of her pets up here. I found out it was one of my neighbor's cats, and so that made me so happy because I know what went on with that cat. I know, and so we can tell you as much as we can, and sometimes we don't know. Do you want to add to that?
Not really. I think the main thing is just the personality, and if I had a network of volunteers that were fostering for us, I would try and match the animals. If they are more low key, I would try and find a more low key, loving kitten. If they're more active, I'd find one that was more active. I'd try to match them as best as possible. But we don't always know the history. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
And but we would definitely pass on what we do know.
Yeah. So my last sort of so one this question is what are the rewards of fostering? And so one of the things that I told you was that uh, loved I like to get new dogs. I like to experience new dogs and new pets and learn their personalities and watch. And I tell you, one of the most wonderful things. So Santana, who came to us and was nothing but skin and bones. I mean, she just fattened right up into a pug. And watching a neglected animal become this happy, healthy animal, I cannot tell you how awesome that feels. So, one of the hardest parts about being a foster is you see all that and you think, oh, I love this animal and they're better and they're love me, and then you have to give them away. So there, so as fosters, I've read lots and lots of people talking about it, and fosters have to come to this place where they go, okay, I'm giving this animal away to a loving home where they're going to be taken in and kept for the rest of their life. So I can take another one and watch him transform into this fat, happy pug and go to a new home too. And it's really, that's one of the most difficult. I told Dawn probably one of the most difficult times for me is when I had one that had gotten to be so wonderful, and that first week, because that first week I knew was transition week. And so I would be like, oh, I hope they're not scared. I hope they're okay. And it's so important to keep in touch with your adopters so that you can hear, he's doing great, because that's what you mainly hear. It took a little while. He was kind of quiet, but now he does this. They'll send pictures and they look beautiful and amazing. And it's so rewarding because that's what we are doing it for. We're doing it to help more and more animals. We don't want animals stuck in the pound. We don't want animals, even these animals here that are so wonderfully taken care of. Willie, he wants attention. We have how many in this building?
22.
22. I can give Willie some attention, but there's 10 kittens back there I want to pet too. And so for him to know that he's going to have that one person that's going to be loving on him, that's very, very rewarding too. So there's very many rewards to being a foster. Um, so that's why I want to tell you what a foster failure is. You know what a foster failure is?
I do.
I can't give him up. I'm keeping him. I had one named Lucy. She was a foster failure. I kept her. She was my last one from Middle Tennessee um, Pug Rescue, and I loved her. I loved her, and she was about 2 years old. And her mama, when she gave her up, she was crying, and she wouldn't even let me hold her. She didn't want to give her up, but she had to. There was some reason in her family that she had to. And so she said, John, let me hold her. And then she put her in the dog carrier. So I never got to pet Lucy until I got home. And I fell in love with her too.
Mm.
And so I had Lucy until she died. And that was one of my foster failures. And so sometimes that happens too. And I don't, that's not necessarily, I didn't foster while I had Lucy until I didn't have Lucy anymore. Um, and then I think I started with West Tennessee Animal Rescue again. So it can happen. So, um, anything you want to add about fostering that we hadn't talked about?
I just know that it's extremely rewarding to, you mentioned about getting them into a loving home and all of that. But for me, just watching them go from being afraid to feeling safe and watching them start to interact and to play. A lot of these animals, they've never interacted with toys before.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch them start to play with toys, it's so heartwarming to know that you're part of that animal's healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's just a number of rewards and benefits to being a foster. And one, it's to you're part of a mercy ministry. You're really it's a form of tithing in essence, not a monetary tithe, but giving of your time and talents. And I think Jesus calls us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I think it's just so important to be part of that network to help animals feel safe and loved.
Yes, yes. So that's what we were talking about today. But before we end today, we want to talk about our dog days of summer.
Yes.
Yay! And I'm really excited. I'm first. Let's talk about parking because how do you
Well,
want
let's
to?
first
Let's
say what it is.
all right.
So,
Let's
Dog
go in
Days of
order.
Summer, it's a fundraiser for all of our rescues, and so have to get creative in how we generate funds. And so this is an opportunity for folks to come out and
be
enjoy,
entertained and
enjoy the shop and make purchases, make donations through the listening of the live music. There'll be vendors on site. It's an opportunity to learn more about who we are. But yes, and
and it's this is the summer after COVID summer.
so it's an opportunity to have fun.
Yes, and so this is like one of our first times that we can come out and be together and have music and uh, animals, and there's a speaker. It's wonderful. So our first performer is a big name. So tell us about who you have first.
So it's Taylor Lynn. She is the coal miner's granddaughter, which of course is Loretta Lynn, and so she sings Loretta Lynn songs, and she just has a wonderful personality. So that's gonna be a lot of fun hearing her sing. And it's going to be the third Friday of June through October. And so the first one, our kickoff, is June 18th. The event starts at 4 p.m., goes till 8 p.m. The music starts at 6. And I actually added an after party show. So from 8 to 10, we'll be having
Black Eyed
the
Susans.
Black Eyed Susans. Yeah, so this is going to be a really fun event, a lot going on. We don't have as many vendors in June. A lot of people are already booked with other events. So our vendor lineup will be smaller this month, but in July it picks up and we have quite a few that will be on site.
What I was really excited about, she has this person, Razzle Dazzle, and it was like sand art and face painting and stuff to do with the kids. And
Yes.
so I thought that would be fun. And of course, there's some food vendors, and of course, I want to eat all the time, so
Yeah,
that's
we'll
good.
have Huntington
Yeah.
Fish Shack will be here for our first event, and then each month we have a different food truck.
Yeah.
But you mentioned parking.
Hmm.
So parking is a little bit of an issue here. We have the strip mall, and there's a lot of spaces, but we have a lot of other businesses here, so we have to be conscious of them. Most of them close around 5, but we just need to be mindful. But Eddie's Furniture and Exit Realty did give us permission to use the lot next to Camden Chronicle. It used to be an old grocery store. There's quite a bit of parking there, so feel free to use that.
And that's on this
Carpool.
side of the road so that you can walk up. I
Mhm.
thought that was good because we can't. So what did we say about across the street?
Um, the owner's not comfortable with people parking in his lot across the street. It's next to competitive design, so refrain from parking there. And plus, you won't have to cross the street if you
Right.
park down by the Chronicle. Um, so yeah, there's that.
Hmm.
And then what else?
Um,
Um,
so we've talked about the parking, the artists, the food trucks, the vendors, and we have tickets available online. They're not to buy, they're donation based only. So even if you give $1, you can get a ticket. But what that's really for is to let us know, okay, there's people coming.
that's true.
Um,
Yes, good point.
this is how many people we are going to have, and so how much space we need to make sure we have. So if you're thinking about coming, please go to our Facebook page. And
Well, actually, I mean, if you're local, just come on in the shop or call me because there's a fee if you do it online. They
okay,
want a percentage. And just remember all of the donations, everything that we raise is for the rescues. So it's going to help for food for Alvin and, vetting for Willie and, um,
all these little kittens
everything that
back
we
here
need.
that needs to be spayed and neutered.
We do. We
Yeah.
have a lot.
Yeah,
So.
there's a lot. All right.
When somebody adopts an animal, they have all of their vaccinations and they're spayed and neutered, and so we cover all of those costs. And our adoption fee is only $50, which doesn't cover it at all. So some of these events that we have will help to cover those costs for us.
All right. So that's it for our
That's it.
weekly
Yeah.
pause this week. Thank you for joining us. She mentioned that yesterday or day before on her live that we were going to be doing our book talk. Joanne got a little behind, and so we're doing our book talk next week about the Dogs Who Found Me, which is a really good animal book. So we'll see you next week for that. And we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We'd like to extend a special thank you to our sponsors, the Camden Animal Clinic and Fox Sanitation. And through their generous support, we're able to bring you this podcast each week. Remember, if you have a pet related question, email us at revelation.gardens@gmail.com. And so next week it'll be same cat time, same cat channel.
The dogs rule.
Woohoo!